Imagine if Red Bull's sudden resurgence wasn't the result of late-night brilliance in Milton Keens, but rather a page lifted straight from McLaren's playbook. That's the rumour sending shockwaves through Formula One after Baku Grand Prix. After a season littered with struggles, Red Bull have roared back to the front with a car that seems untouchable. Their speed is electrifying and their stability relentless. The whispers growing louder now suggest the RB21's edge might not be born of pure innovation, but of imitation. Insiders hint that Red Bull's latest floor design carries uncanny similarities to McLaren's blueprint, raising the question everyone is too nervous to ask out loud. Did Red Bull's comeback come from copying their rivals? And then the bombshell dropped. In the aftermath of Baku, McLaren took their concerns directly to the FIA, casting doubt on whether Red Bull's sudden resurgence was truly the fruit of months of engineering graft or something far murkier. For a team that had been fourth best all summer to suddenly reel off back-to-back wins raised eyebrows. But McLaren went further, suggesting the similarities between their own breakthrough floor design and Red Bull's latest upgrades were too striking to ignore. The FIA responded swiftly and decisively. Officials moved into Red Bull's garage and confiscated sections of the RB21's underfloor, packing them off for an intensive inspection at the Federation's technical centre. It was a move rarely seen in the modern era, and one that instantly turned the spotlight onto Red Bull's garage. Were Red Bull's victories at Monza and Baku the fruits of ingenuity, or the result of lifting secrets straight from their closest rival? What had looked like the start of a triumphant comeback for Verstappen and his team now risked being remembered as the moment their credibility was called into question. At Monza, and now at Baku, Formula One witnessed one of the season's most dramatic twists. McLaren had dominated the summer with 5 straight victories, while Red Bull and Max Verstappen seemed like pale shadows of their former dominance. The reigning champion hadn't stood on the top step since May, and whispers were growing louder that his golden touch had deserted him. But then came Monza, and Verstappen struck back with a statement win that silenced the critics. And just when many assumed it was a lucky one-off, he doubled down in Baku, delivering another commanding performance. In the space of 2 weekends, a fading dynasty looked reborn, leaving fans and rivals alike asking the same question: what had really changed behind the scenes? Inside Red Bull, the official line was all about long-term planning and steady progress. Laurent Mekies insisted the Monza and Baku victory was the result of lessons learned back in 2024, when their cars' flaws on high-speed circuits were laid bare. But whispers in the paddock paint a more controversial picture. Rivals suggest Red Bull's sudden leap forward wasn't just the fruit of patient refinement, but rather a case of borrowing heavily from the team that had been beating them all summer. McLaren's floor design, their aerodynamic tweaks, even subtle suspension changes. Some believe those ideas mysteriously found their way into Red Bull's car. Red Bull returned to Monza and Baku with a very different philosophy compared to the previous year. At least, that was the story they told. The team once again rolled out a modified front wing, a predictable tweak to manage drag and airflow at circuits like these. But instead of sticking to their usual strategy of crafting a rear wing solely for Monza or a low downforce solution built just for Baku, they claim to have taken a broader, more sustainable route. Officially, the focus shifted to underbody changes that could be carried across multiple venues, a smarter investment than one-off parts. Yet, in the paddock, many pointed out that these so-called innovations bore more than a passing resemblance to McLaren's proven concepts. The results spoke loudly. Verstappen delivered a commanding drive, harnessing the newfound straight-line speed while still enjoying enough grip to launch attacks and defend with confidence. For the first time in months, McLaren's winning streak was shattered. While Mekies was quick to emphasize the engineering breakthroughs after Baku Grand Prix that supposedly fueled Red Bull's resurgence, he couldn't ignore the role Verstappen played in turning those upgrades into results. Max also delivered an extremely strong performance, he admitted, stressing that driver confidence can tip the scales when margins are razor-thin. Verstappen had grown visibly frustrated during McLaren's string of victories, but with Red Bull's car suddenly revitalized, he seized the chance to reassert himself. His precision from qualifying through to the checkered flag left little room for error, making the win look deceptively routine. Yet, beneath the surface, the whispers refused to fade. Many in the paddock believed Verstappen's confidence spike was less about Red Bull unlocking some hidden potential, and more about the team slipping McLaren's ideas under their own bodywork. The underfloor tweaks and aerodynamic traits that appeared at Monza and Baku mirrored McLaren's DNA a little too closely for coincidence. So, how did Red Bull suddenly close the gap? Within the technical community, their turnaround may not have been born entirely in Milton Keens. Instead, eyes have turned to into McLaren's latest flaw, a design so efficient at redirecting disturbed airflow that it keeps the car's aerodynamic platform stable even in chaotic conditions. And it is this very flaw, many suspect, that Red Bull have now borrowed and slipped under their RB. The twist is brutal. McLaren themselves were once accused of borrowing from Adrian Newey's revolutionary concepts, but they didn't stop there. They refined them, producing something Newey never quite cracked. Red Bull's cars have always thrived in clean air, their downforce and balance ensuring tyre longevity when left unchallenged. But when thrown into turbulent air, the package faltered. McLaren solved that puzzle, building an underfloor that laughs in the face of dirty air and still extracts maximum grip. For Red Bull, this is the golden ticket they had been missing. By blending their own strengths with a suspiciously familiar McLaren-style flaw, they've patched a glaring weakness. Suddenly, Verstappen could not only unleash raw pace, but also preserve tyre life under constant pressure, something Red Bull had struggled with for months. Victory in clean air is one thing, but victory while gliding through turbulent wakes with tyres still alive, that is a race day weapon, and the irony is impossible to miss. The advantage Red Bull flaunted at Monza and Baku may not have been forged in their factory at all. Despite the breakthrough at Monza and now at Baku, Makey struck a careful tone when discussing Red Bull's outlook for the rest of the season. It seems like we even exceeded our target in Monza and Baku, he admitted, though he quickly cautioned that the true test would lie in the races that followed. Monza is a peculiar outlier on the calendar, a track where unique setups can exaggerate strengths and mask weaknesses. The real question, Meekes argued, was whether those supposed gains would carry over to more conventional circuits. That is why Baku was circled as a proving ground. Its long straights demand top speed, but the variety of corners require a package that can balance both agility and endurance. If Red Bull's underbody tweaks, rumoured to be suspiciously similar to McLaren's cutting-edge flaw, worked here, it would offer proof that their progress was more than a one-off trick. Yet early signs weren't entirely flattering. In Friday practice, Verstappen languished in 6th, over 6/10 off Ferrari's pace. For a team desperate to show that Monza wasn't a lucky strike born from borrowed McLaren concepts, the gap raised uncomfortable questions. Were these improvements truly transformative, or simply circuit-specific imitations? What's clear is that while the victory didn't suddenly flip the championship picture, it injected drama into a season many had assumed was McLaren's to lose. And so, Red Bull left Baku not with the glow of celebration, but under a cloud of suspicion. What was supposed to be the spark of a renewed title fight had now spiraled into whispers of copying, FIA inspections, and doubts hanging heavy over Milton Keens. Yet Formula One never lingers in the past for long, and the next chapter looms large under the bright night lights of Singapore. The Marina Bay circuit is no ordinary test. Its brutal mix of tight corners, relentless heat, and punishing street layout exposes every flaw a car tries to hide. For Red Bull, it offers a chance to silence critics and prove their pace was real, or risk confirming McLaren's accusations in the harshest of spotlights. Will Singapore mark Red Bull's true redemption, or the unravelling of a comeback built on borrowed secrets? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, goodbye for now.